Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. In June, we observe Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day and Emancipation Day. It's the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. This annual holiday recognizes the events of June the 19th, 1875, when the news of President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation finally reached Galveston, Texas, freeing enslaved people in the furthest reaches of the South. 2.5 years after Lincoln signed the proclamation. Now, Juneteenth is celebrated widely across the country, highlighting both its historical significance and current relevance. Today, we will meet Andre Neighbors, Partner Relations Manager for Visit North Carolina, a unit of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, ENC. Andre will share insight on the importance of observing Juneteenth and provide an overview of the incredible activities and events scheduled for the 2023 Capital City Juneteenth celebration. It's going to be held on June 14th through 19th. Before we go further into today's program, I would like to do some housekeeping. As always, keep your microphones on mute throughout the entire session. Please send all of your questions to the chat room. The chat room will be monitored, and we will work to make sure all of your questions are answered in an orderly fashion. This session will be recorded, and you will be able to view this program later on demand. Speaking of on-demand recordings, you will be notified soon of today's program availability and all of our recent programs when they are ready to be reviewed. We are pleased to announce the following upcoming program. The next program is actually tomorrow on June the 13th. For LGBTQ Pride Month. We look forward to seeing you there. I'm going to turn the program over to my colleague, James Harris. James?
Good morning, Winnie. Good morning, everyone. And again, my name is James Harris. I'm an employee relations consultant here at the North Carolina Office of State Human Resources. And today I have the distinct pleasure of being able to introduce our guest speaker for the day. Andre Neighbors has served as the Partner Relations Manager for Visit North Carolina, formerly the North Carolina Division of Tourism, Film, and Sports Development since 2010. Visit NC is a unit of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, supporting sustainable efforts to market and promote the state's natural, historic, and cultural resources, and aid communities, nonprofits, and tourism-related entities for development to improve tourism products and visitation across the state. Andre formerly held a similar position with the West Virginia Division of Tourism, as he provided marketing, research, communications, and other types of assistance to communities, attractions, and convention and visitors bureaus throughout West Virginia. In that role, he worked to develop the state's first African American Heritage Guide, identifying cultural and historic attractions, as well as foster its Civil War Trails program. Andre also worked on several projects such as Scenic Byways, Rails to Trails, National Coal Heritage Area, Freedom Trek 1 and 2, the Governor's Black History Month Kickoff Program, and the Booker T. Washington Institute at West Virginia State University. Before moving to North Carolina, he was the convention sales manager for Charleston, West Virginia Convention and Visitors Bureau, where he covered sports, military, and fraternity markets and managed the Charleston Sports Committee. Andre is a travel marketing professional through the Southeast Tourism Society Marketing College program with more than 20 years of experience in the tourism industry. He graduated from Concord University, serves on the Concord University Foundation of Directors, and resides in Mebane, North Carolina with his wife Stacy and daughters Malia and Morgan and son Dion. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to some and maybe reintroduce to others our esteemed guest speaker for the day, Mr. Andre Neighbors, Partner Relations Manager for Visit North Carolina. Andre, you're on.
All righty. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me. And yeah, I definitely need to shorten up that bio because it kind of sounds like I'm important when I'm really not. But glad to be here and happy to share information just about what we're doing with Juneteenth, with the Capital City Juneteenth celebration, and even maybe provide you guys some information about what we do at Visit NC and EDPNC as well to promote tourism and business development throughout North Carolina as well. So again, happy to be here. And I don't know, Regina, or you're going to ask me some questions, or do I just kind of
I do.
flow right into it?
Yeah, I do. I have some questions for you.
Sure.
First of all, if you could just go ahead and tell us a little bit about the committee and how it began. How did you get this all put together?
Sure. Yeah. So this basically started downstairs at the St. Paul AME Church there in Raleigh, just off of Edenton Street, and the pastor at the time, Reverend Hodges, who's just recently retired, wanted to do a Juneteenth celebration. We were actually just started off just going to have it there on the church grounds in the parking lot, and the initial conversation was just some members from the members from the church, as well as Mr. Earl Imes, who's a curator at the Museum of History. He's curator of African American Studies. And we just kind of got together, probably about eight or nine of us in the basement there, and just kind of had a conversation about, hey, we should have a Juneteenth celebration, and what do we want to do? How do we want to do? Booths in the parking lot and food trucks and things of that nature, and and so we had this big plan going on, and then we were like, well, I wonder if we're actually going to be able to do it here at the parking lot. And then, of course, COVID happened. So that kind of threw a wrench in all of our plans. So we were just going to do a virtual event. That's what we had planned to do. And then the folks at Dorothea Dix Park kind of stepped in and said, hey, we heard about this event. We would love to host it and would like to help out in any way possible. So they jumped on board. And when the governor kind of lifted the masks and things like that in 2021, Dorothea Dix said, hey, we have a spot. Come check it out. We'll have it spread out to where everyone is not close to each other, and we'll have enough space, and we'll do it here. We'll provide the stage. We'll help you get all the artists and the whole 9 yards. So that was kind of the birth of the Capital City Juneteenth celebration. Dix Park came in. We did a live event, and this is going to be our third year, and we're really excited to host it again.
Attendance really well at that first event?
I had really great attendance, probably a little over 1,000 people, I think is what the folks at Dick Park said. They had kind of estimated a little over 1,000. And we had some great reviews. People really loved the entertainment that we had. They really liked the fact that there was one there in Raleigh. So we have the capital city is actually hosting a Juneteenth celebration. It was right around the time that they had announced that it was going to be a federal holiday. It's still not a state holiday yet, but we're still working on it. But they announced that there. The governor showed up, the mayor of Raleigh. So we had a great attendance, and I think everyone in the area, in the community, was very excited to be able to participate in the event.
Wonderful. So that's a great segue to my next question. You've got this wonderful lineup this year. I've seen it, but go ahead and share with everyone what you have planned this year so that they are eager to come out and be involved with it as well.
No, sure. So it's interesting. So the celebration really lasts for the whole week. So we actually start. I literally just got off the phone about 45 minutes ago with Mr. Imes, with Mr. Earl Imes, and he's actually going to be doing a presentation this evening at the Wake County Library in Garner. Just talking about Juneteenth, the significance of Juneteenth as well. That's at 6 p.m. In Garner, and then on Wednesday is when they're also going to meet event at the City of Raleigh Museum, where Mr. Imes is going to be discussing changing faces of African American politics. So Earl's going to be one of the speakers, as well as Yvonne Lewis Holly, who's a former NC North Carolina state representative. So they're going to be doing that panel or at 7 p.m. And then at the same time at the North Carolina Museum of History, there's going to be another event there with Dr. Spencer Crew, who's the interim director of the National Museum of African American History and Culture, Smithsonian Institute. He's going to be during the program talking about the significance of Juneteenth as well. That one is it's a free event, but you can go on Eventbrite and register. So they are taking registrations because I think it's limited seating there at the Museum of History. So that's on Wednesday the 14th. And then, of course, on Thursday, the 15th, there's Untangling Our Roots, which is an experience of African American genealogy at the State Library, Governor and Heritage Library there here in Raleigh as well, in room 208. So you'll be able to go and do some genealogy research there at the museum, at the library as well. And then on Friday, again at the North Carolina Museum of History, again from 1 to 4, you're going to be able to meet members of the U.S. colored light artillery Civil War reenactors are going to be there on the campus of the Museum of History. So there'll be an event going on there. And on top of that, we have a renowned fish fry that's going to be going on by Chef James Guilford of Princeville, North Carolina, which is the first incorporated African American town in the country. Florida likes to put it in there that they're the first, and there's a group out of New York that's trying to say that they're the first. But North Carolina actually has the documentation of incorporation. Mr. Imes kind of filled me in on that last week when he did a speaking event for us at the EDPNC office. So that renowned fish fry is going to be from 4 until it's sold out, and that's going to be at Dix Park as well. So Earl always says get there early because it's going to be a treat as well. And then of course that evening at the Museum of Art on Friday, June the 16th, there's going to be a celebration of freedom and gospel music by and the featured gospel singers is Durham, North Carolina's own Shirley Caesar. So that's going to be a phenomenal event as well. And that one starts at 7 p.m. Then, of course, Saturday is when the large big event at Dix Park is going to be going on. So that's when that starts at that's from 1 to 6 p.m. So that's when we'll have all of the different acts. We have an array. We have United Strings of Color, which is a youth organization that does string instruments. They're going to be one of our participants. We have one of my favorites, which is the Mac McLaughlin group. So we have jazz, we have string music, we have R&B, we have storytellers. So it's going to be food trucks all over the place. Pit Barbecue is going to be there. We're going to have a guy that does an original Eastern North Carolina pit barbecue off of cooking off of oak wood. So the original way to cook barbecue. We're going to have that group there as well. So this is going to be an array of activities that'll be going on during that day from 1 to 6. So we encourage everyone, hey, get your lawn chairs, get your blankets, get your ice packs, the whole 9 yards. Come on out and celebrate that with us as well. And we do have a change of venue on there, so I want to make sure that I let everyone know that we're at the Adams Field, or what they call the Big Field, there at Dorothea Dix Park. So again, an array of things that are going on for that Saturday. Then of course there's a church service at St. Paul AME on Sunday, and then on Sunday at William Peace College there's a play called Homegirls that's available for others to attend as well. It's also a ticketed event, but it's free and open to the public. And of course, it's limited seating. So if that's something that the folks want to attend, I would definitely recommend that they go on and purchase and at least sign up for a ticket there. And then finally, on actual Juneteenth Day, on Monday, June the 19th, there's a film called 1865. The First and Freedom Convention. North Carolina was the site of one of the first Freedmen's Bureau conventions out during Reconstruction. Once all of the enslaved were emancipated, so that's another event that's going to be happening as well. So a long week, a lot of things that are going to be happening, a lot of events that are going on, but just again, plenty of things to commemorate and to celebrate freedom for all and Juneteenth for North Carolina. There's a mouthful.
Great. I thought I knew about all of them, but you just shared some that I didn't even know about. Now, I have a quick question before
Sure.
about what you just shared. If anyone's listening and, you know, everything was shared really quickly and they're jotting it down like I've been doing, can you share the website where they can go and find more information, especially for those events where registration is required or something like that? Can you share that website with everyone now?
Sure, absolutely. So it's Juneteenth Raleigh. So JuneteenthRaleigh.org. JuneteenthRaleigh.org. That's the website. You can go there. All the information is on that website there. There's a flyer on there, so it has a list of all the events, the dates, and even the links for the events that require you to register. All of that information will be on that site, and you can go on there and pull up. And there's even an email address there. So if you have questions, you can even send an email out to the folks there, and it'll get to that information will get to the committee.
Great. I've heard from your colleague on the committee, Ms. Moses, about that play, which sounds absolutely incredible. I have a schedule conflict, but anyone who's interested in that, they better get on that list quickly. That is really excellent. And I'd like to know from you,
Sure.
what does Juneteenth mean to you? I mean, you're doing all of this incredible work. You have, you and the committee have all of these activities and events planned, but specifically, what does it mean to you? And I'm just interested in knowing, when did you become fully aware of Juneteenth?
Yeah. So what Juneteenth means to me, me personally, it's near and dear. I'm not a history buff, but I love it. But I do like history, and I do like to know my roots. And it's something that I pass down to my children, and even now my 2-year will be 2 years old in August. My 2-year-old grandson. So it's just one of those things that I think we should know our history. I think it helps us know ourselves better. I think it gives us a sense of pride. I think it gives us it gives us that feeling that we are contributors to this country. And the meaning of freedom, and freedom for all, because it's not is not just that the enslaved were freed, but there were laws preventing anyone to help those that were enslaved doing anything. So the contributions to this country, the things that make this country great, all of the growth, all of the enlightenment, all of the things that this country, has been able to gain, was because of the enslaved, and after emancipation, the things that we contributed as well. So I think it's just an array of things that lets us know, those of us of color, that yes, our ancestors had a major contribution to the growth of this country, no matter how things are now, and that we nowadays should actually take heed to that and know that, and be able to pass that information on to future generations as well. Again, I make sure I talk to my kids all the time, and now to my grandson. I know he doesn't understand it now, but I still kind of put it in his ear just a little bit, just to and hopefully that inspires him as he continues to grow. And I will continue to lay that message to him as he continues to grow as well, about the contributions of African Americans to this country. And I was in my 20s, really, when I really learned about Juneteenth. So that was in the mid 90s. I was actually out of college when I really learned about Juneteenth. So it was just one of those things that it wasn't ingrained into me as a youngin, but once I started learning more and getting more interested in history is when I learned about it and was like, oh, wow, this is actually what happened. You know, knowing that it was over a year and a half before the folks in Galveston even got the word that slavery had ended. So piqued my curiosity, and which is probably why I'm such a history is even when I travel, I try to make sure I get some type of history wherever I go. Long-winded answer there.
No, it's
My dad is
wonderful.
a
It was
pastor,
wonderful.
so
Yeah,
pastor's
it's
kid,
really
so.
interesting because for a few years now, I've asked people that same question. When did you first find out about it? Especially Black people. I'm always curious as to when they found out. And I found that it's really regional. Um, I have family all over, a huge family, but family on the West Coast, especially around, Texas and they know Oklahoma, they know about Juneteenth because, that area and they had relatives, grandparents, and great grandparents who passed that information down. But I see that a lot of people are saying pretty much what you did, that it was later in life that they learned. So that's interesting. That just fascinates me. Another question I have for you, what would you say to people who feel that, okay, that Juneteenth, that's, about freeing African American enslaved people. But I don't really relate to that holiday. It doesn't have a connection to me. People who would feel that way, how would you respond to that? Because what you just said spoke about a shared history and this message of freedom. So to me, that's a natural connection. But what would you say to that, to individuals who feel that, I'll come out and have some of that really good fish, but I really don't relate to that holiday. How can you tie that in, that we all are connected to Juneteenth and this message of freedom?
Well, that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we stressed when the committee formed, that our message would be freedom, freedom for all, preserving our heritage and moving it forward. But Juneteenth is really, it is again, it's really about the freedom for all. As I had stated earlier, and it's interesting because when Mr. Iams was giving the presentation to our office last week, it enlightened me. He kind of enlightened me about when at the time of slavery, again, anyone other than slaves, you could not help them, and it was against the law to give any kind of help to an enslaved person, whether it was teaching them to read, whether it was whatever it was. So, and in fact, if you were not enslaved and you were caught, someone who wasn't enslaved caught helping, that was actually an equivalent. Your punishment was, I think he said it was 15 lashes at the courthouse. So Juneteenth, that freedom of of enslaved people was made that freedom for all. So it made it to where you could have some type of you could have that way to help move the country forward, because there was Reconstruction coming at that time. So what were all of the enslaved going to be able to do? They had all of these disadvantages while they were enslaved. So what were the things that they were going to be able to do? They had the knowledge of all of the things, as far as sharecropping, as far as growing, as far as building. They had all of this knowledge, but what were they going to do with that? So it actually helped everyone. That was people of color and people not of color, in helping uplift the freedoms of everyone in this country. So everyone has a part of Juneteenth. It's not just those people of color; those of non-color as well all have a representation to celebrate this commemoration, this celebration of Juneteenth, because it literally was freedom for all.
You touched on something that makes me think of what James shared in your introduction. the guide that you worked on, the Heritage Guide, and also that the Booker T. Washington Institute. Can you speak a little bit about that for folks who may be interested in that?
Yeah, so back when I was working in West Virginia, I had the same position when I was working with the West Virginia Division of Tourism. And one of the things that I wanted to do when I got the position there was, and my boss at the time, she kind of pulled me in. She said, "There's so much Black history in West Virginia that people just don't know about. Small state, it's 100% in Appalachia. The African American population in West Virginia is about 3%, and there's only on just over a couple million in the state of West Virginia. There's more people in Atlanta than there are in West Virginia. That's how small it was. But we really wanted to get our point, get across that there was so much Black history within the state of West Virginia. And so at West Virginia State University, which is an HBCU, there's actually two HBCU institutions in West Virginia. Bluefield State College and West Virginia State University are both HBCUs. And our office is in Charleston near West Virginia State. So, and another part of history is many people don't know that after Booker T. Washington graduated from or during emancipation, Booker T. Washington as a young boy, family moved over to a place called Malden, West Virginia, just outside of Charleston, which is where he lived, worked in the salt mines, and actually learned to read in the city of Malden, and then went on to Hampton University to get his degree, and then of course went on to start Tuskegee Institute. So there was a connection there with Booker T. Washington. So we ended up working with West Virginia State University and developed this Booker T. Washington Institute at West Virginia State University. And there's a replica cabin of what Booker T. Washington and his mother would have lived in at the time that they walked over from Virginia into West Virginia into the Malden salt mine. So there was a replica there, and West Virginia State kind of took that over. There's an African American Heritage Museum that's in that area as well. So we kind of formulated that with West Virginia State, along with developing a African American Heritage Guide for West Virginia, which there was never one done, and that was back in 2003, I believe, is when we were able to do that. So we were able to formulate that mainly just to get that information out. That yes, West Virginia does have a history, does have a wealth of history for African Americans, even working in the coal mines. My grandfather was a coal miner. My dad was a coal miner for a little while until he was injured, and then he ended up going into insurance. But so I have a little history there as well of family members, uncles. I had great uncles that were working in the coal mines also. So I have a little bit of history there. Grandparents, great grandparents growing up in the coal camps, telling me those stories. My aunt, my grandmother, my great aunt, my grandmother talking about being baptized in the creek. So there's a whole array of information there that I had no idea about, that my grandparents and great grandparents and great grandparents told me about the history there. So that's kind of the whole I guess that's as best I could, the Reader's Digest version of how we were able to get the Institute started. And it's still somewhat viable there at West Virginia State University now. I don't think it's as ingrained as it was when I was there, because I was really pushing it during that time.
Sounds like a stage play in a book. Just saying, Andre. So from that, in talking about this history, and you mentioned your children earlier and your grandchild, give some folks some advice on how you, loving history and this information that you're sharing today, how you talk to young people about things like Juneteenth, not just Juneteenth, but our history, and instill in young people, children, this love of who they are, where they come from, and how do you do that?
Sure. Well, I encourage the reading of books. Souls of Black Folks. That's one of my favorites. Malcolm X is a favorite of mine as well. So I encourage the reading. So I encourage reading. and with books, not just online, but I know the young kids today, that's kind of the way that they look at things, either on their phone or they're doing it online. So I encourage that as well, and then, I just kind of talk to them about, being responsible, being taking, taking ownership of their actions, making sure that they're stop and think before they do things, and just try to encourage them, telling them that, hey, there's a lot that they have in store in their lives. They're young, they're impressionable, so they really need to be talking to older men and to older women, as well. I tell my daughters the same thing is you need to be, looking at the things that people that are doing things positive, that are doing things in their community that are helping others. That's always my big thing is helping others be better, not just yourself. Helping others become better actually helps yourself become better. So I try to push that a lot. I coach. I'm a basketball coach. Played basketball at college, and I'm a basketball coach now. And I coach little kids, so it's all first graders up to 10th graders. And I coach high school basketball as well. So